Hi, my name is Ben Weiss, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Zcruit, the first platform to provide predictive analytics to the world of college football recruiting. Now, if you're familiar with the 2011 Oscar-nominated movie Moneyball, you know the story of how Billy Beane used analytics to turn the under-resourced Oakland A's into one of the best teams in professional baseball. By using statistics, Billy Beane was able to help his team build smarter rosters, enabling the Oakland A's to outperform teams like the Yankees and Red Sox, which had budgets 4 times his size. Now, just like in the baseball market, the college football market is eerily similar to that of professional baseball pre-Billy Beane. The average team just can't compete with teams like Alabama, which spends $42 million a year on their college football program, or schools like Oregon, which recently built this state-of-the-art $68 million football facility. Just like Oakland, if the average team is going to compete with the best teams on the field, they're not going to be able to outspend them, but they can outthink them. Each year, college football programs must replenish their rosters by recruiting 20 to 25 high school prospects each year. In doing so, they spend on average $400,000 per year, with many schools spending upwards of $1 million on football recruiting expenses alone. And while spending has gone through the roof, schools still rely on the same outdated processes they've been using for the last 15 years. Today, schools manually comb through upwards of 4,000 prospects each year in order to find the 20 to 25 kids they'll wind up committing to their program. Ultimately, they only extend offers to 5% of prospects that they wind up spending time evaluating, and will only get 0.5% of prospects to actually commit to their school. A majority of time and money spent in the recruiting process is wasted chasing the wrong guys. Now, after working for the Northwestern football recruiting department for 3 years, I saw that there were 2 components of recruiting the recruiters had to take into consideration when making decisions. Those components were talent and gettability. Recruiters were looking for the best players in the country that were also somewhat likely to commit to their school. And while I saw that there was an oversaturated market of talent identifiers out there was no one that was on this gettability side of recruiting. And that is where Zcruit comes in. Zcruit enables teams to have better rosters in a more efficient way by using statistics to help in the identification and decision-making sides of recruiting. At Zcruit, we've developed a highly accurate algorithm that can predict how likely a prospect is to commit to a given school, which we like to call that algorithm or that score that we spit out the Z-score. Now, welcome to Zcruit. As you can see, when a recruiter will log into Zcruit, they'll get access to 10,000 prospects, high school prospects, each of whom has a Z-score attached to their prospect profile. Now, when a recruiter starts their recruiting search, they tend to start by offering the best players in the country. But overwhelmingly, those best players tend to not commit to that school. They wind up spending months just chasing these guys that are pie-in-the-sky players they won't wind up getting. What schools should be doing is recruiting the guys that they're somewhat likely to get, the most talented players in the country that they're somewhat likely to get. And that's what Zcruit can help you do. Now, today, while schools are spending their time wasting their time recruiting the wrong players, those guys that are talented players that they would otherwise have a chance at are building relationships with other schools and getting other offers, decreasing their Z-score and their likelihood of committing to that school. Ultimately, by the time schools waste all those months jumping in on those pie-in-the-sky players, their likelihood of getting those other guys have drastically decreased. Now, in a system in which it's statistically proven that the average college football players are considerably more likely to commit when they're offered or those relationships are built earlier, this can have hugely negative ramifications on the average college football recruiting class and the roster talent for the average team. Now, we've been testing out our predictive capabilities with Northwestern since June of 2015, and since live testing began, our algorithm's gotten it right 94% of the time. Additionally, Northwestern's 2017 recruiting class, its first full class since implementing Zcruit's predictive technology, is currently ranked 31st in the country and is on pace to be Northwestern's best recruiting finish in program history. Now, we're fortunate enough to have 3 football industry experts that serve as advisors for us. With Corey, Coach Bowers, and Hunter on our side, we're a phone call away from 35 direct customers and purchasing decision makers. Our team consists of 4 Northwestern students with a wide range of skills in web development, applied statistics, and college football industry expertise. And together, we're confident that we can take this market by storm. We currently have 3 users on our platform beta testing out, and we're excited to be able to take the next step after our beta phase is over in the fall and expand outwards to the rest of the college football market. At Zcruit, we envision a world in which you recruit smarter and perform better. Thank you very much, and we'll open up to questions.
Awesome. So it's being used at Northwestern, and that performance is real?
That performance is real. So
okay.
Yeah.
No, I mean, awesome.
No, we've been using they've been using our algorithm since June of 2015.
Traction.
Thank you.
So how? I mean, what's the secret sauce? Like, really? No, I mean, like, why did you figure this out, and everybody else who's doing all this sabermetric stuff and all this? Like, yeah.
So most of I was fortunate enough to work inside a recruiting department for 3 years, and because of that, I had inside access to different data than the general person or general statistician or sabermetrics guy has access to. While about 60% of what goes into our algorithm is publicly accessible data, about 40% we need to get from the schools themselves. So the schools provide us with their data, and after they provide us with their data, we're able to turn that into an algorithm that can accurately predict how likely those prospects are to commit to their school.
How much does Northwestern attribute their current kind of success with the recruiting class to Zcruit?
Yeah, so Northwestern was able to lock up their class very early on, and they do. I was talking to the head of recruiting yesterday or 2 days ago about us, and he does attribute a lot of that to Zcruit, because we were able to really tell them, hey, look, none of the wide receivers that you've currently offered you're likely to get. They were able to turn their attention elsewhere, recruit the right guys to their program, while all those other guys were going elsewhere and doing what we said, committing to other schools. So talking to the head of recruiting at Northwestern, and we've got a quote from him as well that we cut in the pitch to save time, but he definitely attributes a lot of their current success to what Northwestern's been, or what Zcruit's been putting out.
Yeah, I imagine part of the thing here is there's also this kind of qualitative approach to recruitment, right?
Yeah.
That's important to address.
Yeah.
So how do you kind of level for that? Because you're providing the stats, but how do you also level up, your customers in a way so that they're more successful at actually recruiting the students?
Sorry, can you say the question more?
Basically, I'm asking I have the stats, I have the numbers, but how do you kind of justify the variance in their ability to actually recruit them? All the different techniques that they go about bringing on.
Yeah, so they've got well-established recruiting departments right now that they kind of know what they're doing in terms of recruiting, that already you're sending these kids mail or already getting on the phone with them and actively recruiting them. We're just telling them who they're likely to get of those guys they're actively recruiting, and not to really believe the biased words that are sometimes coming out of these kids' mouths that they're taking to heart and using to inform their recruiting decisions.
Over the $400,000 average budget, how much waste are you able to trim off using your technology?
That's one thing that we're still in the process of calculating, is really how much money can we save. One thing that we've kind of found from Northwestern in talking to experts in the industry is that the budgets that they have are kind of their set budgets that they're going to spend no matter what. What Zcruit helps them do is to find the right players earlier so they can start recruiting that next class of players at an earlier time, making them more efficient in their recruiting process and getting better players in. So targeting the right guys earlier and improving, saving them time and enhancing their overall output in recruiting classes. So not necessarily saving money, but saving time and improving the recruiting classes.
This might be too simplistic. I don't know the recruiting world, but if everybody ends up using this, is the advantage gone?
So just kind of like in Moneyball, where you started out, only the Oakland A's were using those Moneyball techniques to form their rosters. Now the Yankees, the Red Sox, even these high-budget teams need to use these techniques in order to stay with the competition and stay relevant. So that's kind of our game plan: is start out with the average team to give them a competitive advantage, and soon will become a necessity for all schools to use Zcruit. So thank you.
All right, cool. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Zcruit.